everyone. Welcome to this special evening. I'm Laura Martinez. I'm a Canopy board member, a former East Palo Alto mayor, and a longtime community advocate. I'm thrilled to be celebrating two of my favorite things tonight, community and trees.
And I'm Bresy Pedraza-Perez. I'm a former Canopy teen urban forester, or TUF as we like to call ourselves. I just graduated from Eastside and had my last day as a TUF a few weeks ago, but I am so happy that I could come back to be here tonight.
I'm excited to be here with you in person, Bresy, now that we've both been fully vaccinated, and we're excited to be here with all of you virtually. I wish I could see your faces, but I know you're there and I can see your wonderful messages in the chat. So please keep those coming. We have a fantastic program lined up for you tonight, so we're going to dive in shortly. Before we get started, Bresy, do you have a few tips for us to enjoy the evening?
Sure, Laura. First, if you need tech support, you can use the chat and send a message to tech support, or you can call or text this number and they will help you out. Our second tip is to please use the chat, not just for tech support, but to participate in the event.
Even though we can't see you, we'd love to hear from you. In fact, why doesn't everyone practice right now by typing in the chat where you're calling in from and maybe a snack or a beverage that you're enjoying during the event?
Oh, we have someone calling in from Brooklyn. Oh, wow. Thank you for calling in for someone so far away.
And we have Gabrielle from San Jose drinking water.
Vanessa in Tuscan, Arizona.
Carrie from Mountain View. Lisa from Palo Alto.
We have Fernando from East Palo Alto as well.
Some ginger ale and EPA. Welcome, everyone. All of that sounds so great. I have my very own beverage here. Some lemon water. Cheers, Bresy.
Cheers, Laura.
I wish we could all be together in person, and I know we will be soon. For now, I would love to know a little bit more about you, our guests, and how you're connected to the Canopy community. To get to know everyone a bit, we will have a poll that will pop up on your screen in a minute. Please go ahead and check all the answers that apply to you. Soon we'll close the poll and find out more about everyone joining us tonight. I'm excited to see the results. Let's see what brought you here tonight. Maybe you love trees, or you're a volunteer, or maybe you want to win Patricia's artwork. All right, it looks like we have a good amount of people who have responded. Let's see, lots of people who love trees, lots of supporters.
Yeah, we have a lot of Canopy volunteers as well, and people who are excited to hear one of the speakers. So I hope you all enjoy.
And welcome to everyone who's new tonight. Okay, Bresy, I feel like I'm pretty warmed up. Should we get started with the program?
Let's do it, Laura. Here's a quick overview of the evening. We'll have a short welcome from Board Chair Kammy and Executive Director Catherine Martineau. Laura and I will share a few impact highlights from this past year. Catherine and Micah will share about tonight's fundraising goals.
We'll also have a few program spotlights, including a mini tree walk and a couple of tree planting site visits. And we'll enjoy a conversation between featured speaker Gretchen Daly and Canopy board member Holly Pearson. Lastly, we'll announce the lucky winner of our local art giveaway and send you off to enjoy the rest of your evening.
Laura, that last item about the artwork giveaway reminds me that there's actually one more introduction we need to make.
That's true, Bresy. Let's introduce everyone to Lucy the Valley Oak.
This is a drawing of Lucy the Valley Oak, created by Mountain View artist Patricia Larenas, specifically for Canopy's event this evening. We'll hear more about Lucy's story at the end, and I hope everyone sticks around because you have all been entered in the drawing, and one lucky person will be able to take Lucy home with them today.
Very cool. Fingers crossed. All right, Bresy, without further ado, let's hear a special welcome from Board Chair Kammy and Executive Director Catherine Martineau.
Hi, I'm Kammy Lowe, Canopy's Board Chair.
And I'm Catherine Martineau, Canopy's Executive Director.
Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us for Planting Hope, Growing Resilience, a virtual benefit celebrating the power of trees and community. Catherine and I are near the banks of San Francisco Creek, surrounded by beautiful valley oaks, coast live oaks, California bay laurels, and California buckeyes. These native trees here remind us to acknowledge and never to forget that this is the ancestral land of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe.
For years, we at Canopy have been inspired by a very famous tree planter, Wangari Maathai of Kenya, the founder of the Greenbelt movement. My favorite quote is what Wangari said when she learned she was the winner of the 2004 Nobel Peace Prize. She said, "When we plant trees, we plant the seeds of peace and the seeds of hope." This is exactly what we had in mind when we planned this evening's event.
Emerging from a challenging year, to say the least, we are gathering at a time of transition for our communities. On the pandemic front, there's much progress to celebrate, especially in our region. But we know the work is far from over. COVID underscores many inequities already present in our society. We continue to grapple with racial injustice, economic disparities, and of course, the global climate crisis. Instead of returning to the old normal, let's use this inflection point as an opportunity to envision something brighter and to rebuild stronger.
Today's event is about hope and resilience. For us, hope doesn't mean just, let's hope for the best. Instead, it's active engagement to create the future we want to see, a more just and equitable future, a more sustainable and resilient future where everyone thrives. We know that a key element of resilience is connection. Trees are connection experts. Their interwoven systems of roots provide strength for the entire forest. And like the trees of the forest, we too are more resilient when connected to one another. Canopy itself has been nurtured by strong connections with our community. It has grown from a small seedling that sprouted 25 years ago to an organization with programs throughout the Midpeninsula today. And this is thanks to all of you. Together, we're working to grow a healthy, lush canopy for all community members to enjoy, to connect with nature and to connect with each other.
Planting and caring for trees is such an important way for us humans to give back to nature and to help restore our earth. It's also a wonderful way for all of us to pay it forward and invest in the future. A Chinese proverb I grew up hearing often is 前人栽树，后人乘凉, which in English means the ancestors planted the trees so that people in the future get to benefit from the cool shade. We have all benefited from those who planted and nurtured trees long before we got here. Now we have a responsibility and an opportunity to plant trees for future generations.
So thank you for being part of tonight's celebration, and thank you for working alongside Canopy to plant hope and grow resilience. May the trees we plant together provide shade for many generations to come. Please enjoy the event.
When we plant trees, we plant the seeds of peace and the seeds of hope. I love that quote, and I love the idea of using this crazy time of transition in our world as an opportunity to imagine better ways to live together with nature and with each other. This past year at Canopy was definitely a time of reinvention, as it was for all of us, but thanks to the dedication of Canopy supporters, volunteers, board, and staff, the year also included a lot of wonderful bright spots. We wanted to share just a few highlights with you of what we accomplished together in 2020.
Canopy was still able to plant and care for trees in small groups with careful safety protocols. Together, we planted over 500 new trees in neighborhoods throughout the Midpeninsula and cared for hundreds more to keep them healthy and growing.
We were happy to have 27 East Palo Alto High School students join Canopy throughout the year as paid teen urban foresters, including you, Bresy. This year, the TUF program was a hybrid of remote projects and COVID-safe field work. And I know it meant a lot to the TUFs when they were able to safely gather outdoors in person to plant and care for trees.
Over 2,500 kids participated in K-12 lessons, mostly through Zoom and distance learning. The education team worked hard to make lessons as interactive as possible to help kids explore and enjoy nature, even from home.
We were also excited to welcome a new cohort of 38 community forestry school students to learn about advocating and caring for trees in their own communities. Like the TUFs, this program was a hybrid with remote classroom lessons and careful in-person field work.
Volunteers and staff continued surveying native oaks in Palo Alto as part of the Great Oak Count, gathering important data about oak population and helping us prepare to grow more oaks in urban areas. Great Oak Count surveyors also educated homeowners about caring for native oaks to help preserve these ecologically important trees.
One opportunity of learning to do more virtually was launching Canopy's first webinar series, More Trees Please, which brought experts from many disciplines to share their knowledge with participants who joined from across the region and even across the globe. Lastly, we made progress on some important advocacy projects. One that I'm personally excited about is working with the City of East Palo Alto on an urban forest master plan. This will be a foundational document to guide urban forest policy and vision in East Palo Alto, which has much lower tree canopy cover than surrounding communities. The team is currently discussing a goal of actually doubling canopy cover in East Palo Alto, and Canopy's tree planting programs will play an important role.
Even though we couldn't have as many people in the field, this work was still a huge team effort. I know everyone really got creative to do things in new ways and to find ways to collaborate remotely.
I can definitely attest to that as a board member. I know how hard the staff and volunteers have been working this past year, and Bresy as a teen urban forester, I know you've worked really hard this year as well. We'd love to take a few minutes to hear more about your personal experience as a TUF.
Sure. I've been a TUF since 2019, and I've always loved working with volunteers and getting to know my community. One of my favorite things about planting is meeting people that I would never have met otherwise. It was definitely different this year without many volunteers and following strict safety protocols, but it was still great to get outside, and I felt like we still got to spread our love for trees in the community.
That's great to hear, Bresy. And I know that fieldwork isn't the only part of being a TUF. You also do a lot of project-based work. Can you tell us about a project that stands out to you from your time as a TUF the last few years?
Definitely. The one that stands out to me the most is the Green Gap Project. We researched the reasons why access to trees in nature is not equal and also the side effects of having lower tree canopy coverage, like more air pollution and hotter temperatures. We created a presentation and gave it to the East Palo Alto Public Works and Transportation Committee.
Yeah, that's a big part of Canopy's work. And I'm glad you and the other TUFs could be part of taking action around this. What were your personal takeaways from the project? Or what would you tell people about why the Green Gap matters?
I would say that every kid deserves to be able to play in the shade. Every person deserves to have clean air. The Green Gap matters because people deserve the benefits that trees give.
That's really well said, Bresy. I have to say, it's very inspiring for me to see you and the other TUFs show so much passion and knowledge around these issues. Not just the knowledge you have about trees, but also how engaged you are in these larger issues around equity and nature access. It gives me a lot of hope. I'm curious, Bresy, what gives you hope?
Kind of similar to you, Laura. In my Canopy work, I talked to a lot of local residents and Canopy volunteers, and hearing all their passion to make our city a place where trees can flourish, and just knowing that we are not working on any of this alone, it's been inspiring and gives me hope for the future.
I love that. Thank you, Bresy. And I think that's actually a good segue into our next section, because it's true that we're not in this alone. I've been a volunteer with Canopy for many years and now on the board for 3 years. And part of what keeps me coming back is the community and the network of so many knowledgeable and dedicated and caring people who are really committed to creating a greener future for everyone. So one of our important goals this evening is to raise the funds we need to continue programs like the Teen Urban Foresters, community tree plantings, K-12 lessons, and local advocacy work. To share more about our fundraising goal this evening, I'd like to welcome Catherine Martineau, joining us live this time, and Micah Horgis, Canopy's Development Manager. Welcome, you two.
Hey, Laura. Hey, Bresy. Good to see everyone.
Thank you, Laura and Bresy. I'm so happy to be here with you two and Micah and everyone who is joining us through Zoom. Wonderful. The first thing that I would like to do is to thank our event sponsors. I think we're going to get a slide and you're going to see the names and the logos of our sponsors. There are foundations and businesses that have helped making this event possible tonight. And more importantly, they are part of all of the funders who help support the work we do to bring more nature in the communities and the neighborhood. I would also like to thank all of you here tonight who are supporters, donors, and volunteers. Canopy's work has been powered by our community forever since we started. And really, we are very grateful to all of you for your help and your support, everything you do and all of the ways in which you support our work. Tonight, we have a special opportunity to double all of the gifts. It's a dollar for dollar matching, and I'm going to ask Micah to tell us about that.
Sure. Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. So in honor of tonight's event, we have the Growing Resilience Match Fund. And so these 6 wonderful funders have assembled a fund to double every donation. I want to thank Morgan Family Foundation in particular, who started this fund. And then they were joined by these 5 other funders to create a pool for a total of $75,000, which is absolutely incredible. And that's our goal tonight, is to add to the wonderful gifts from our sponsors, from people who gave before the event, and to get to that grand total of $75,000. And I know that you are all wondering how close we are to our goal. And so we have a magical thermometer that's going to pop up in a minute and actually show us how we're doing. And we are at $42,000. So we're a little over halfway, but we obviously need some more gifts tonight to make it to our goal. And we actually have until June 30th. So we have a little bit after the event, but we're really hopeful that we can make it to our goal tonight. So if you haven't had a chance to give yet, and you would like to help us reach our goal, there's a few different ways that you can donate. So the first way is, like it says there on the screen, you can send a text Planting Hope to 44321, and you'll get a little message back. You can give right there on your phone. You can also look at the link in the chat, and you can follow that to give online. And if you don't want to do either of those, you can also find the little remit envelope in your event packet, and you can send us a check. We love getting checks. If you decide to give offline, you can also send a little message in Zoom to the panelists and let us know your pledge, and we can actually go ahead and type that in on the back end and include it in our total tally for the evening. So yeah, thank you so much to everyone who's already given, and thank you to those of you who might decide to give right now.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mike and Catherine. That's so exciting. And we'll see you one more time at the end of the program.
Excellent.
Awesome.
See
Thank you, guys. See you
Bye.
soon.
As a quick example of the work that your gifts will support, we're going to take a quick trip to visit Gabby at Stephen Creek's Trail to hear about a recent tree planting and tree care at that site.
And we have to apologize for the sound quality. There's a bit of background noise, but we know you'll understand that these are some of the realities of working in the urban environment. So let's hear from Gabby.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Trudeau. I'm Canopy's Community Forestry Coordinator. I run the programs in Palo Alto and Mountain View, and today we're here in the Stevens Creek Trail, just showing off some sites that we worked on. Canopy, with the help of volunteers, staff, and the City of Mountain View representatives, has been planting and caring for trees on this stretch of the trail since 2017 in partnership with Friends of the Stevens Creek Trail and the City of Mountain View. Throughout the spring of 2021, we hosted 3 events with over 100 volunteers where we planted 10 new trees and cared for more than 90 trees. Some of the tree care we did out here was, as you can see on the berms of most of these trees, they have freshly added mulch. We added mulch because mulch is a good weed suppressant. It also helps conserve moisture for the summer, and it also helps regulate ground temperature. And so that's some of the care we added to each of these trees so that they make it through the summer and they have a happier life. As you can see from before and after photos, Canopy's work has had a huge impact on the appearance of this trail, used year-round by hikers, runners, and bike riders for exercise, commuting, and enjoyment. These trees were planted in order to dampen the noise pollution and provide a screen to block the trail from Highway 85 that you can maybe hear in the background. These trees will help cover the sound and sight of the cars and keep the trail beautiful, peaceful, and safe. Thank you so much for your donations that make this work possible by supporting planting events, supplies, and staff members needed to run these events, without which we wouldn't be able to do any of this work.
It's fun to get a glimpse of the work on the ground from Canopy's tree team. Next, we're going to get an update from the education team along with a short activity. If you have your event packet ready, your packet ready, this is a good time to grab your camphor leaves and start opening the little bag. You might even need a pair of scissors.
And if you registered in the last couple of days and the packet didn't reach you in time, don't worry, you'll still be able to follow along. Let's pass it over to Natalie and Vanessa.
Hi, I'm Natalie Brubaker, Canopy's Education Director. As a tree trunk is able to sway and bend in the wind, we at Canopy were able to discover our own flexibility during a time of uncertainty and change. Canopy's education programs provide people of all ages opportunities to experience the benefit of trees, to learn how to plant and steward them, how to advocate on their behalf, and most importantly, how to delight in their beauty and wonder. In the last year, we've had a wide open horizon to reinvent and re-envision our education programs in new and meaningful ways. We discovered the strength of our deep-rooted programs and learned how to adapt them quickly to the needs of our community. Along with the rest of the world, we redesigned our programs for virtual platforms. We zoomed into school classrooms with our K-12 lessons. We shared trees on screens with our virtual tree walks. And we reached audiences across the globe with our new webinar series titled More Trees, Please. We hybridized our Teen Urban Forester program and Community Forestry School to take place both online and in the field with virtual lessons and outdoor COVID-safe tree planting and tree care. Throughout the year, we focused on encouraging our community to spend time with nature in their own neighborhood as a way to renew and restore. Today, we hope to share a small taste of that with you. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Vanessa Wins, to guide you through a brief activity.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Wins, Canopy's Environmental Education Manager. Studies show that even just looking at photos of a natural landscape can dramatically lower our levels of stress and anxiety. Of course, the effects are even more powerful when paired with physical activity and engagement with the natural world. This is the idea behind Canopy's Wellness Tree Walks, which take high school students outside to breathe in the fresh air, listen to the sound of birds, watch the wind rustle the leaves, and feel the warmth of the sun. As they look up into the tree canopy above, they have a respite from school day stressors and a moment to pause and connect with the natural world. This evening, I invite you on a mini wellness tree walk from the comfort of your own home. If you have the camphor leaves from your event packet handy, we'll use those during the activity. And if you don't feel comfortable following along with the exercises, you're welcome to just relax and watch. If you're ready, let's begin. Spending time in nature has been proven to restore our bodies and minds, relieve stress, and lead to greater feelings of well-being, empathy, and connection. Together, let's explore the gifts that the urban forests provide by experiencing a few ways that trees can support our physical and mental well-being. Let's start with our breath. When we're stressed, the rhythm of our breathing changes. Intentional breathing exercises can help reset our body and relieve stress. Coordinating your breath with a visual exercise can help even more. As you focus on your immediate surroundings, you lead your attention away from worrying thoughts and bring your mind into the present. Let's try a breathing exercise using the trunk of this beautiful coast live oak. During the exercise, we will take 3 deep breaths together. When you breathe in, follow the tree with your eyes, starting at the base and moving up to the top of the canopy. When you breathe out, follow the trunk back down to the tree's rooted base. Breathe deeply but gently, without too much effort. Let's begin. First, sit or stand up tall, lengthening your spine. Allow your shoulders to relax. Allow your jaw and face to relax. Breathe in slowly, following the trunk up to the top. Then slowly releasing your breath as you follow the trunk back down. Let's repeat that twice more at your own pace. Now relax and allow your breath to return to its natural rhythm. If you try this outdoors in the presence of a real tree, you'll get even more benefit from what's called reciprocal breathing with the tree. Trees release chemicals called phytoncides, which they produce for their own protection. When we're around trees, we breathe in these phytoncides, and they provide many benefits for our bodies. They've been shown to boost our immune system by increasing our white blood cell count and decreasing stress hormones like cortisol. Just one more reason to hug a tree today. Let's explore another hidden tree treasure, this time using our sense of smell. Mindfulness practices that engage your senses are another way to relieve stress and enjoy the present. If you have the leaf packet you received in the mail, you can open that now and remove the leaves. These leaves are from the camphor tree, which is an evergreen with a strong and recognizable fragrance. Crush or break the leaves in your hand. Inhale gently, simply noticing their scent. Do you recognize it? Camphor is often an ingredient in respiratory decongestants, along with eucalyptus and menthol. The camphor oil that's used in products and sold as an essential oil comes from the wood of the camphor tree rather than the leaves, but you may notice that the leaves have a similar aroma. You can set your camphor leaves aside now. For our last exercise, let's continue using our senses, shifting focus to what we can observe with our eyes. There are no expectations of you during this exercise other than simply noticing. It's easy to walk around the world with our many thoughts about the past and plans for the future and miss what's around us in this exact moment. The more we slow down and notice our surroundings, the more we begin to truly appreciate and enjoy them. As we view scenes of our urban forest together now, take time to notice the rich visual details that are sometimes missed and see what you can learn from your observations. Let's return to the beautiful coast live oak that we saw during the breathing exercise. You can visit this oak yourself at Pioneer Park in Mountain View. Notice the texture and furrows of the bark. Imagine what it might feel like to gently run your hand across its grooves. See if you can spot one of the many small creatures that calls this tree home. This tree is both an ecosystem on its own and a part of our larger urban forest. Now take a closer look at the leaves. Notice their texture and thickness, and their slightly spiky tips and edges, a notable feature of the coast live oak. Have you taken note of the flowers? Less showy than the flowers of some other trees, the coast live oak's flowers hang in dangling yellow bunches, with pollen that is dispersed by the wind. Finally, enjoy the curves of the bark's sprawling canopy, which opens up to the sky and sunlight beyond its branches. Imagine the cool shade beneath its shelter. And allow yourself to feel a sense of gratitude for the gifts of this tree and the foresight of the people many years ago who planted or protected it so that we could enjoy it today. Thank you for taking the time to join me on this mini wellness tree walk. Take a moment to notice how you're feeling after doing these practices together. I hope you feel more connected to the natural world, and I encourage you to try these practices during your next walk or outdoor adventure. Enjoy your evening and take care.
Laura, I feel so relaxed now.
Good. I think that's the idea. I'd love to know how other people experience the exercise. For some people, it might have felt strange or new, and maybe others have done similar types of practices before. If you feel comfortable, I'd love for folks to just type a word or a phrase in the chat about how the mini wellness walk felt for them. Calm, wonderful,
Relaxing,
reset, peaceful,
refreshing, rejuvenating.
wonderful. I'm so glad everyone had a good time with that.
Over the past 2 years, over 2,000 high school students have joined Canopy for in-person wellness walks on their school campuses. Here's what a few of them shared about their experiences. One of Palo Alto High School students shared, "I love the Canopy tour because it allowed me to refresh my brain and stay away from electronic devices. I was amazed at the amount of different types of trees in the campus because honestly, before the tour, I thought every single tree looked the same."
We heard things like this from a lot of students we surveyed and from teachers too. One gun teacher shared, "My students fill in a daily mood chart. They are also asked to write down one thing that makes them happy. After our Canopy walk, about 1/3 of my class put trees or nature or walking in nature as something that makes them happy."
Thanks everyone for participating and chiming into the chat. In a minute, we're going to hear from Maya Briones, who manages Canopy's Branching Out program. But first, let's check in on our fundraising thermometer and see how we're doing.
All right, let's see here. It looks like we are at 69,629. We're so close, which is awesome. Thanks everyone for keeping the gifts coming. You can check the chat for a reminder of all the ways that you can give if you'd still like to make a donation.
As another example of the work your gifts support, let's check in with Maya Briones on her work in North Fair Oaks.
Hey, my name is Maya Briones, and I'm the Community Forestry Manager here at Canopy. I manage our Branching Out Tree Initiative, which is funded by CAL FIRE to plant trees in communities with less canopy cover in order to reduce air pollution, essentially, and also give shade to these communities. So Canopy's goal is to plant trees where they are needed most through this Branching Out initiative. And it can be fairly difficult actually to plant trees in low-income communities of color with a lot of historic racism, redlining policies that led to these communities having less tree canopy cover to begin with. We have partnered with organizations like Climate Ready North Fair Oaks and the Stanford Future Bay Initiative to meet folks here in North Fair Oaks to get to know them and understand what do they want from Canopy's programs. We're also working with Stanford Future Bay Initiative very closely, and last year they the students created a tree planting prioritization tool. So we've been planting in North Fair Oaks since 2020, and so far we've planted 29 trees. It's a challenge to overcome all the barriers that these communities face and to support residents truly in saying yes to trees. And so every donation truly helps, so thank you so much.
Bresy, that reminds me of what you shared about the green gap and how everyone deserves the benefits that trees and nature provide. These are the topics that Gretchen daily speaks and writes about passionately. Gretchen is a celebrated ecologist and researcher, author, Stanford professor, and the co-founder of the Stanford Natural Capital Project. Her work focuses on understanding human dependence and impacts on nature and the deep societal transformations needed to secure our shared future. In her research and writing, Gretchen inspires hope for healing human connections with nature and protecting our planet's most precious local and global resources.
Gretchen recently sat down with Canopy board member Holly Pearson to talk about trees, the Natural Capital Project, and solutions to today's challenges. Holly is also an accomplished scientist with a PhD in biology from Stanford University and a law degree from New York University School of Law. Today, she serves as the chair of Canopy's advocacy committee and is working on a book about Bay Area trees.
Let's listen in to Gretchen and Holly speaking together at Gretchen's home near Stanford University.
Holly, thanks for coming over.
Hi, I'm Holly Pearson, and I'm a board member at Canopy. And it's a pleasure today to sit down with Gretchen Daly, Stanford professor and co-founder of the Natural Capital Project and a dear friend. So Gretchen, thank you so much for sharing your time and your garden with Canopy today. And you've been a friend of Canopy, I know, for a long time. And people fondly remember an event you did in 2013 that surrounded your book, The Power of Trees. So I just hope today we could catch up a little bit and see what's been on your mind.
You have a good memory, Holly. Gosh, and I bet like everyone, a lot on our minds. And I guess mainly at the forefront and thinking about what brings us together, our shared love of trees and our shared desire to bring healthier urban and other forests into the future for ourselves, for our kids, for people, yet to come. I've been thinking a lot about the links between trees and all the blessings we get from trees and what we're dealing with today. So many challenges, and trees aren't the solution to every challenge, but when we think about the pandemic, when we think about climate, the extremes we've experienced here in temperature or fire, when we think about all the social kind of enlightenment that we're going through, but also really tough shocks of different sorts, and trying to figure out kind of how to build back better. And then finally, all of the social unrest in many dimensions is illuminating the great inequities that many experience and don't need illuminated, but it's illuminating for everybody the inequities in access to nature and just how fundamental access to nature really is to human well-being. And to have a more just society, we ought to be moving ever more deliberately toward greater access for all kids to parks and trees and all the benefits that we really need from a health and a well-being perspective. I feel from a science point of view, there's a really strong and ever-building evidence base as to the power of trees basically to keep humanity on a good course or get us onto a better course. So anyway, I'm really grateful knowing Canopy, and to you and to everybody joining us now, for all of the heart and effort and commitment to these causes.
To step back for a minute, you and I have known each other for nearly 30 years, if you can believe it. When I was working on trees in Hawaii and you were working on birds and butterflies and wildlife in tropical places. And in other interviews, you've done such a beautiful job of talking about the evolution of your thinking and your work and the various phases. And today I want to talk in particular about trees. And you have two beautiful tree books, The Power of Trees and One Tree, which came out a few years ago, 2018. And I guess my question is, what inspired you to think so much about trees and to write these gorgeous books?
You're nice to bring them up, Holly. And I guess thinking back, it's a mix of things. Part of it is just the fascination, I think, that we all hold for trees and our place kind of in the web of life, together with trees and many other types of creatures. And, the whole arc of human history is so intimately connected to trees. I mean, we initially evolved in trees. We have really good hand-eye coordination and fine dexterity, thanks to having lived in trees as a species for about 80 million years, and weird as that is to think. Through the ages, people have really been, I guess a lot of our innovation has been powered by trees. Going back through the different ages, the Bronze Age and getting into kind of the age of discovery and all the way, but, from kind of the beginning, even going back to the Stone Age. But all of this really powered by controlling and mastering fire, using wood to open up northern climates, to kind of unlock food sources that had to be cooked in order to nourish people. But that's thought to have really powered evolution of the human brain and our, the abilities that we have as the crazy species that we are on the planet today. And so there's just trees kind of connected to us at every level. And that was part of the inspiration. But I have to say the other big part was thinking about how to convey some of the science in a more visually compelling way and a more emotionally, activating sort of way. So I got to work with a photographer, and I hope I get to work with you in the future. But Chuck Katz, who lives here in Palo Alto, I'm sure he proposed the first one, and that was great fun. And then later, in my field sites in Costa Rica, there's this one amazing tree called the ceiba, and it just has this mind-blowing presence. It's one of the tallest and most beautiful kind of emergent rainforest canopy trees, and yet it's often a tree that's saved after people have cleared forest in an area. So, and there's this one in a town very near where I've worked for all these decades actually, and it was saved repeatedly by the local townspeople from different development schemes and clearing schemes. And it really signifies, I think, the connection and spirit of people, and just kind of the fulfilling act of being connected to nature is even more fulfilling, I think, when you're helping to protect or regenerate nature. And this tree kind of symbolizes all of that. So our second book was called One Tree, and focused on the story of this incredible tree in an incredible place.
I love that idea about one tree being able to make a difference. And
I think you say something along the lines of, in caring for one tree, we care for them all. And I found that really powerful. Do you want to say more about, why does one tree matter?
Yeah, it is incredible at different levels. I think people have all experienced that. I bet just about everybody in Canopy has either a favorite grove or, place in a forest, or even a favorite tree, or maybe a few favorites, a few best friends.
It's hard to
So, yeah, one tree can make such a difference. And it also ties to play back and forth between the emotional attachments that we, I think, very naturally feel for trees to some of the science. It's amazing to see all the new research on the benefits even of one tree in a person's life. And a lot of this was sparked actually back in the 80s when a guy named Roger Ulrich led a study where he really had an intuition of the power of trees in healing. So he did this study on all these patients who had come in for the same operation, gallbladder surgery, over about 8 years. And all these people came in and, went through the surgery, had their stay in the hospital, and then went home. And he focused on this one hospital that had some of the recovery rooms looking out at a red brick wall. And there was nothing wrong with this red brick wall. That's what you got to look out at. And for a few days, and he went home. Other patients just down the hall and around the corner. So same experience in just about every respect that you could possibly control. They got to look out on one tree, and just a modest little tree out there out the window. And those people in those rooms with the view of a tree, they recovered more quickly, they experienced fewer complications, and they requested much less in the way of pain medication. And they had no idea they were going to be part of a study. They were just trying to get through this unfortunate surgery. And so that, I think, was a bit of evidence that I think activated a lot of curiosity, and now we're seeing much more research into one tree. And I'll stop there.
I love all this information, Gretchen, about trees and health, but I spend a lot of time with you, and I know that you spend a lot of your time working on the Natural Capital Project. So I'm wondering, are there connections here, and maybe what, in a nutshell, is the Natural Capital Project?
You're great to bring that up, Holly. I know we're always talking as close neighbors and friends about keeping the house going, the kids going. And then about, the yards and work. And so the Natural Capital Project, in a nutshell, it's natural capital refers to, all of Earth's lands, waters, and then the biodiversity, the huge variety of life, including all the different 60,000 types of trees that we've got around the world, and bring all that much more centrally into our thinking. So we all know there's value there, but we've never been rigorously quantifying that value. The Natural Capital Project was really inspired, actually, by a lot of this, seeing what really innovative places like Costa Rica and other places were doing to value nature, whether it was individual trees or expanses of forest or other elements and dimensions of nature in decision making. And the idea was to try to, first of all, bring these values of nature much more systematically into all of our planning, our policy, our finance, and then definitely into the day-to-day of people's lives, how we manage farms, how we build cities, how we design schools and hospitals, how we protect people and property along coastlines or rivers from flooding or climate events other than flooding. And There's just so many connections to trees in all of this. One example is for mental health. Just a short walk along a tree-lined street can have a tremendous benefit in reducing anxiety, in kind of boosting cognitive functioning, your active working memory, your creativity, and many other dimensions. And that's been shown repeatedly in a lot of studies in housing blocks, like where people in the same kind of design either face a bunch of trees or have no trees, or in school classrooms that are identical, but some look out on trees and others look out on more a barren parking lot or something. And the presence of trees is just stunning and makes a major difference in all of these contexts. So over the past about 10 to 15 years, there's been a huge effort among scientists globally to quantify all these things. And it's been, despite all the hard times, this has been really exhilarating that even through the pandemic, there's just so much more demand for this. So together, this global partnership has developed a software system that lets anybody have access to all this science. It makes it much more accessible, much more actionable. And so people in urban planning or people in different types of companies, certainly in governments, and especially in among investors, there's much more thinking about the value of nature. So Holly, one of the really amazing recent advances out in the world has been in developing a way to kind of bundle all of these values of nature up together in a metric, a new metric that cities or counties, states, countries could use to track progress and to really value nature. And so I'm super excited to say that a metric that we've been working on in a long time now, first in China, is now being adopted worldwide. So it's called gross ecosystem product. And the idea is to have something there alongside gross domestic product, where for all these decades since GDP was invented, we've really focused on GDP as a metric for progress, and yet it completely is blind to so many things we do value, including nature. And it's proven really hard to green GDP. So instead, we're putting forth this gross ecosystem product metric, which it measures basically all the contributions of ecosystems to society. And it helps make those visible. It helps guide investments like the ones in upper watershed regions serving cities or coastal areas, or just, make visible investments like Canopy is making in urban forests, and many other types of investments in nature and farmland, out in wildlands. And then thirdly, it lets us kind of track progress. And this is just recently in March, it's been blessed by the United Nations Statistical Commission as a metric that will be taken up globally for application in countries all across the world. And in each case, just working really closely with decision makers and land stewards, the actual people who would be out, protecting or replanting trees as one major element of nature to drive this kind of green and ever more inclusive development pathway. So Holly, I'm always talking with you about all these things at the global level. And one of the many things I love about you and about Canopy is this focus on the local level. I mean, what do you think about the role basically of local organizations in driving this broader transformation that we're all seeking together?
Yeah, I think that local organizations are key. I think there's a couple things at a couple levels. First, local organizations have the power to address very local problems, right? Canopy literally knocks on people's doors and asks if they want a tree. And, if you think about climate change and extreme heat and, changes in rainfall patterns, the trees that Canopy is planting are already making a difference in the daily life, in people's, in the streets where they walk and the parks where they gather. The impacts are very tangible and very local. And I love that about what Canopy does. And also, I think recently, the inequities you mentioned before about the pandemic and how it's, it doesn't hit people equally, neither will climate change, or does climate change. And I think local organizations are key to bringing those inequities to light and to addressing them. Canopy started as the Palo Alto Tree Task Force 25 years ago, and now its range, includes multiple communities in the Midpeninsula, and its focus is on planting trees and caring for trees where they're most needed, so that there's more equal access. And I think the programs at Canopy, from advocacy, education, tree planting, and care, work together to address, the inequities, and also to address people's daily experiences, what they see out the window, as it were. And then I think local organizations do play another role, which is to raise the consciousness of, of nature. And if you can connect to one tree, I think that opens your eyes to connect to a broader, to the broader environment, and to care more, like your book says, right? In caring about one tree, in a sense, we're caring for all. So I think it raises consciousness. And I think both that local impact and this bigger issue are really important. And that motivates Canopy's work and why I care so much about it.
That really brings me hope. I would say, in kind of finishing now, I feel there's so much joy in working together, making new friendships and deepening old friendships, and reaching across communities, and trying to play our own role. We all have a role in opening up a better future, and seeing it activated here through your work with Canopy, with your book in the works, and with all you're doing and all that everyone engaged here is doing. It really just keeps hope kind of on my lips. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Gretchen. This has been wonderful, and we're so grateful for your time and all the work you're doing in the world.
I love hearing Gretchen talk about the connection between people and trees and how these global and local efforts can work in tandem. Gretchen and Holly had a longer conversation than we could share today, and the whole thing is fascinating. Stay tuned for the full-length interview if you'd like to learn more from Gretchen. As we conclude our program tonight, I'd like to welcome back Catherine and Micah for a final fundraising tally and our special artwork giveaway.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, good to be back.
Good to be back. Really, Laura, I totally agree with you. The work that Gretchen does is so inspiring to us. I don't know if you know, but I'm an economics major, and a growth ecosystem product is a game changer. It's going to change everything if this is adopted, and if China adopts it, guess what's going to happen? So I have hope too, and I want to thank again Gretchen for her generosity, sharing her time with us and her ideas, and bringing us up to speed on the science. She always does it very generously with Canopy, and we're grateful for that.
She also taught us to identify a few birds in her garden, which was
Oh,
fun.
yes. And I don't know if you could hear in the background, but I could hear some of the songs. And she was telling us during the shoot, when we were shooting the segment, she was telling us which bird was singing. It was really fantastic. Yeah. So let's see. So what are we up to now? I'm a little confused.
It's time, Catherine, for the final fundraising update, which I am super excited to give because I just peeked at the thermometer and it's exploding. We are at, we'll wait for it to wind up here, and we're at over $80,000. So not only did we meet our 75K match, we made and I'm blown away because I'll let you all in on a little secret. We have a few commitments that we knew about that we saved for tonight so people could give day of. But we did not expect to be this far past our goal. And so that means all of you have really responded and really given so generously. And yeah, we just can't thank you enough for that. It means so much, and it really makes a lot possible.
This is truly fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone, for your generosity. Your support is going to go a long way to help Canopy create the change that we want to see for a more resilient future where people and nature thrive under the shade of healthy trees. That's kind of our motto. So I know there's something else that we need to do, or I need to do.
Catherine, speaking of the power of one tree, we have one very special tree, and it is time for you, Catherine. Do you have your little basket? Because it's time for the artwork giveaway.
I do. It's right here.
And I'm really excited. So Pedraza-Perez, who created this wonderful work, she is working with Canopy actually throughout the summer. So you'll be hearing more from her. You'll be seeing more of her artwork. And Catherine, do we have time? I tell the little story. So
yes,
Patricia chose this tree in Palo Alto, beautiful, iconic oak. She learned its story. The previous homeowner named the tree Lucy. It gets visited by lots of people in the neighborhood. She's a very beloved tree. And so Patricia did her portrait, and we announced this on our e-news, and we got a message from Forrest, who is one of Canopy's co-founders. Thank you, Forrest. And he let us know that actually almost 25 years ago, in Canopy's early days, we had been involved in saving this tree during a development project. And usually we don't get involved in specific trees, but this one was so special. And so anyway, I thought it was a really nice kind of full circle that Canopy was actually involved in ensuring that this tree was for Patricia to draw. And I know we, continue to care a lot about making sure there's oaks like Lucy in our urban environment.
Thanks, Mike,
sorry.
for saying.
Thank you for indulging me. Now you can draw the name, Catherine.
Yes, so I am mixing a little more the names, and now I'm looking away and very innocently grabbing one piece of paper, and the happy winner is Monse Suarez.
Woo! Yay!
So, congratulations, Monse, and we will be in touch with you very soon to deliver the beautiful artwork that you
can you show it, Lauren Bresy? Do you still have it there? Can we have one more look at Lucy for people who aren't taking her home? We'll have photos of her on the Canopy website and stuff, but oh, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. This was a fun time together, as it were. We're still together. The chat was so fascinating. Thank you so much. And by the way, if some of you want to know, these leaves are from a valley oak. So this is the kind of leaves that this Lucy tree grows.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for being here tonight. This was so fun to do with all of you, and with you, Bresy, and Catherine, and Micah.
Thanks, Laura. This was fun. And if folks out there still want to donate, you can still give online or via text or through mail.
Always.
We hope to see everyone in person soon. Until then, have a good evening. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Hope to see you all in person soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.